Welcome. This webinar is about making more engaging online classes using Lesson Magic. Now, there's really two types of online classes that I want to address briefly, synchronous and asynchronous. Of course, a lot of these tips are also useful for in-person classes, so if you aren't teaching online right now, that's okay too. I just want to give you some tips that I think are useful for online classes. So I started teaching online classes during the pandemic, and these were not students who had signed up for an online class. I think now they have a lot more exposure to that, so they have some potentially different expectations, which sometimes we have a hard time meeting in a language class because there is so much need for interaction. A lot of times I think students who take online classes are expecting to just log on at any time, day or night, and do their work on their own. And as we know, that doesn't really work for language because you don't really have those interactions with other people when you do that, and you can't learn the language from each other. So what I try to do with these lessons is really create those interactive opportunities. So first I'm going to address if you have synchronous online classes or using it in a classroom setting, because I think that is the thing that people are not necessarily as comfortable with when they take an online class, is that synchronous time. If you don't have that synchronous time, there may be ways for students to meet up with each other online outside of the asynchronous activities and maybe schedule on their own or have you schedule them so that they can still get that. If not, they might have to use these activities with a tutor or with someone in their community to really get that speaking time. So let's dive right in. I'm going to go ahead and share a sample lesson that I created. This is in the platform. So there are about 30 different topics that I've created that are in the platform. They are ranging from mostly beginning first and second year or first and second semester levels if you're in higher ed. There are some more advanced topics as well. A lot of them also correspond to the AP themes because I know you start those often from the first year as well. So this one has to do with sports and STEM changing verbs because that is one of the local districts here. That is their combination in one chapter. They have sports and STEM changing verbs together, but I have all kinds of combinations. So it really doesn't matter what book you're using, what curriculum. So the way I've created these activities is I've structured them in such a way that the objectives are not just learn STEM changing verbs, right? It's not just drill to practice that because they can go online on Conjuguemos or any other site and practice that, right? What I want them to do is really be able to talk about the topic at their level using the tools, vocabulary, grammar, and culture. And so, for example, here, this one is a little bit harder to do in an online setting because obviously they have to have someone else to talk to, but it's great when they have that computer at their disposal because they can click on the world map and learn the names of the countries in Spanish so that they can ask and answer each other's questions about the map. What are the most popular sports in different countries? Where would you go if you wanted to see a match of a different sport? And notice how the STEM changing verbs are just baked in the whole time. So prefieren, quiero. So I also have this product for French and English. I'm just demonstrating the Spanish at the moment, but there are other, you can search for the same types of activities for French and English as well. And so in the next one, they have to survey their classmates. You can do this as a discussion board in an online class or as an in-class setting. It's often easier to just go around the room and do it, but it doesn't mean you can't do it in an online setting where you could have them do it as a discussion board or in a Zoom session where they're asking each other about their favorite sports and then they're making a chart of their results. So a lot of these links, the teacher can click to display them if they're on Zoom altogether. This is also helpful if they're going into a breakout room because a lot of times they get into a breakout room and they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. So a lot of times what I do is all of these are available as PowerPoint. Actually, they're all available as Google Slides. Some are also formatted for PowerPoint when you download them. I recommend using Google Slides if you're teaching on Zoom because you can just paste the link right into the chat and they can click that link and then they can go to the different sites. But obviously you have to check and make sure that all of these are not blocked by your school if they are logging on from a school IP address. And so these are linked so that it's okay for copyright because I can't copy paste the chart. However, of course, you have your own fair use options if you are wanting to put something in the PowerPoint yourselves because you think it's more confusing for them to have to access an external link or it's blocked by your school, then That's up to you and your school's fair use restrictions. But for me, I can't put the picture directly in there, which is why a lot of these are linked. So when they go to an infographic, oops, this one seems to be blocked at the moment, but it worked last time I checked. So you definitely have to check those links. I will check that, and if it's not available, I will replace that with something that is. I always go back and check constantly. But then they look at the infographic about the benefits of playing a sport, and then they ask each other questions about it. Same thing with the equipment that's necessary and to play different sports. And then the STEM changing verbs are also baked into the preview questions to help them better understand a video. And then here's the video about the rules of soccer and the rules of baseball. And it's building up to a cultural activity where they're understanding a little bit more about the popularity of baseball in some Spanish-speaking countries, soccer in others, and which one it is in Cuba. And then I put turn on closed captioning because obviously when we use authentic materials, it's a little bit harder. The other tip I have is if you are trying to type on the screen when you're teaching on Zoom, you can click on annotate and start typing. I recommend leaving a big space like this on the slide so that there's a place to type, but the students don't actually see any of your typing until you click off of the box. So I've seen this happen before. People are typing and typing away on the screen and no one can see it until they click off of the box, and then all of it appears at once. So don't do a lot of typing at once, just do a little bit at a time, and then they will be able to see it when you click off of the box. And so it goes through all of this. And this is probably much more than one day of class. People often ask, is it for middle school, high school, or college? Really, all of it. It really depends on your curriculum, what topics you're including, and how much time you have, how much of this you can actually do in class. Like I said, if you're teaching an online class, sometimes people like to copy paste from this into their Google Classroom or another site. You have to be careful with the background color and the foreground color. Like this one is black on white, so if you paste it into Google Classroom, it's fine. But other people have told me if you are trying to paste white text onto Google Classroom, they can't read it. So I recommend pasting it in Notepad or something first to clear the formatting and then paste it into your site because it works a lot better. Then you don't have to change the font color every single time because that's something that I hadn't thought about when I put these together. So where do these come from? I just briefly wanted to address that as well. They come from this site where I have created a search engine called Lesson Magic. In this particular one, I searched for sports and STEM changing verbs. There's also an English and a French search, and you have to scroll down for the results. And the real world resources are sort of the unvetted AI mode where you can see things that really exist in the real world that use STEM changing verbs while talking about sports. It doesn't give you verb charts. You can find those on your own. It's more about just getting the material for authentic or comprehensible material into the hands of students so that they can really start using it in context. There's also some resources from some open educational resource textbooks and other sites, as well as some that use the vocabulary and grammar in context. If you prefer to do a culture search, that's there as well. You don't have to fill in all three categories. And then this is where I got the ready-made lesson from. If you click on the one for goal, there are different access options. You can purchase it individually, you can subscribe, and if you already have access, you can click here. Don't forget when you subscribe to put in the code SUMMER24, because if you click on add promotion code and you put in SUMMER24, it takes your total to 0. So you can get the first month for free. You do have to put in your information because it's a subscription, but you can always cancel. So yeah, I mean, tips for asynchronous, I just wanted to briefly point out that if the students can get together on their own in some kind of interactive setting, that's great. If they have a tutor, they can take the activities to the tutor to work on with them, because I think sometimes in a tutoring setting, the students often just go and ask questions about the material. They don't really get that opportunity to engage and interact. And so I really wanted to make sure that if the students are, not doing really time on task in the language and it's not developing their proficiency, that they do have an opportunity to do that either with the teacher individually in office hours or with a tutor or with another student from the class. Or you can also do some of it in a discussion board setting, but I've really structured a lot of the activities to try to make sure that they can't use AI or Google Translate in the moment if they have to do it. If they have more time, that will be a problem. So it will be harder to structure those activities to keep them from being able to use Google Translate or ChatGPT to just fill in their answers. I think a lot of times having to actually engage with multiple revisions of something, doing a reflection, having to engage other students, it doesn't stop it completely, but it makes it harder for them because they don't necessarily know what they wrote if they just have AI do it. So sometimes having multiple steps of an activity helps as well. And obviously it gives you more to grade if that's the case. And so that's where peer editing or peer revision comes in. So, or giving them tools like Spanish Checker where they can check it on their own. So you don't have to be grading every single step of an assignment because that definitely increases the workload. Well, thanks so much. And I look forward to your questions. Oh, you're muted. There.
Oh, I was like, I don't have any questions.
Okay, great.
I'm so sorry.
I'm just going to go ahead and stop the recording.